Deputy.
Ministers, the PwC report explicitly clear
Is it possible
that.
to see the contract? Can I see the contract?
Can you stop the clock?
Minister will come back to you when he's.
Can you stop?
Deputy McGrath.
I'd like to see it too. Good question. The PwC reports is explicitly clear that of the 9 organisations interviewed during the process, not one of them included Connolly for Kids or any of those senior clinicians who have campaigned and forensically deconstructed the arguments for St James's for years. One sick child or their parents weren't. So I ask the question, why? What is most revealing, however, the PwC in its recommendation says, and this is quote PwC, we have considered and agree with recommendations made by Mazars in their reports relating to cost escalation and governance. The recommendations that we have set out below in this report do not replace those. So what's the point? What's the point throwing good money after bad? So effectively, we have paid out 600,000 plus to find out what we already knew from Mazars. In terms of lessons learned, the PwC report also recommends that ownership, there's absolutely no ownership whatsoever, Minister. And listen, are you listening at all to Professor Chris Fitzpatrick was before the Oireachtas Finance Committee, and his presentation was absolutely stark and reminder of the farcical history of the project. Professor Fitzpatrick reminded us that on the 7th of November 2012, Dr James Riley, then Minister for Health, announced that Children's Hospital was to be developed on the site of St James's. At that time, there was no reference to the Combe Women and Infants University Hospital, and it's just scary. And the fact that he's recently before the committee, and he stated the following: each year, over 200. Remember, we were talking about babies today in Tuam, Shanross and Tipperary. 200 critically ill newborn infants are transferred within hours of birth from maternity hospitals, mainly in Dublin, to Our Lady's Children's Hospital in Crumlin, Temple Street University Hospital, for highly specialised emergency interventions. The mortality in this group of babies ranges between 5% to 18%, depending on the complexity. This number is set to increase with increased availability of prenatal autonomy scans nationwide and more referrals coming from Northern Ireland. Because of the dangers associated with the transport after birth, mothers from around the country are delivered in Dublin to reduce transit times. The consequences of delivering without the benefit of a prenatal diagnosis, planned delivery and proximity to tertiary paediatric services are grave. He's told you this, and this is going to happen. I have a PQ today from you, Minister, actually this evening. The question is, yes, there are questions. Have we any regard for the sick babies that we've been told by eminent professor? I have a PQ for you today, Minister, which the final letter says that, just back this evening, is all the waffle about co-locating. A site of the proposed maternity hospital is identified as St James's, just identified site, master plan. And the new Children's Hospital design has incorporated the required operational links with both the maternity and adult hospitals. While the construction of the new maternity hospital will not, this is your words, Minister, commence until the new Children's Hospital is completed. You've said that this evening. So where are the sick babies going to go? I had an AV room, an eminent professor who hasn't got involved in this campaign at all, but came into my last briefing 2 months ago and said, for God's sake, he said, please, I had to come in and speak out. And he was asked, Deputy Wallace was there as well, he said, we only have minutes to intervene when babies are born with very profound or life-threatening brain damage. And he was asked, he said, minutes. I think Deputy Wallace or somebody asked him, how many minutes? He said, maximum 12. So we need co-location. It ain't happening here, Minister. You must know that at this stage. And the people and the sickest children and their families and the eminent people that can't even kids that wanted this the site outside where we had room, and you got PwC to give you a rubber stamp just to cover up, I mean, for what your inadequacies. That's what all it was. Finding out things that Mazars said.
You have asked questions.
I have asked questions.
Well, hold on a minute, Deputy. Hold on.
Please, I'm nearly finished.
Hold on, please. Well, if you have asked questions...
I have 4 questions, yeah.
Sorry. You've got 5 minutes, so I want to give the Minister a few minutes if there are questions to be answered.
There are.
Hold on.
I've asked...
Hold on. Deputy Wallace. Deputy.
Should I have asked the questions?
Listen, you can't always be right.
I'm not always right.
Well, you think you are.
I don't.
You do.
But you keep it. No, it's not fair to me. No, you did it again today. No, this is totally ridiculous.
You come in here.
No, I do not. I have questions.
You come in here.
Are you trying to cover the minutes now as well?
You weren't here.
I wasn't, because others didn't turn up.
You weren't here for your.
Because others didn't turn up. It's not my fault. I was told 9:20.
Deputy, it's a matter for you to look after your own interests in this.
I'm making a complaint about you because this is ridiculous. You did it again today. I have questions. I've asked questions.
Deputy,
I've asked the question.
You cannot continue abusing the chair.
I'm not abusing the chair. You're abusing me.
You're abusing the chair. I told you that you've got 4 minutes to ask questions. The ministers must be given an opportunity to answer the questions, and the ministers will not get 1 second longer. Ministers, if you wish to answer, or if there are questions to answer. The ministers will decide that.
Laskin Corda, I suppose in response to Deputy McGrath's statement, I'd make the point that Deputy McGrath has a view, which he's perfectly entitled to, that the hospital should have been built at a different location. The people's representatives in this House have voted on this not once, not twice, but 3 times. Once in 2012, once in 2016 or 2017, I can't recall, but not long after I was first appointed Health Minister, and indeed you had another private member's motion which was defeated in this House only a few weeks ago. So the people's representatives have spoken on this not once, not twice, but 3 times. So the location's not changing. We're building it and we're getting on with it. I do agree with you that when I accept your bona fides, Deputy McGrath, on this important and sensitive issue about how we look after some of the sickest babies born in our maternity hospitals. As you will know from the government's capital plan and from the National Maternity Strategy, we have a plan and indeed funding in place to co-locate not just one of our standalone maternity hospitals, but indeed all 4 of them. The Coombe to James.
Minister, without interruption from anybody. Minister, without interruption, I said.
The Coombe to James's, the Rotunda to Connolly, the National Maternity Hospital to St Vincent's, where there's planning permission and funding in place, and also the Limerick Maternity Hospital to UHL. So we will be co-locating. You asked what are we doing for the sickest children, and I'm telling you very clearly we will be co-locating all of them with acute adult hospitals.
Deputy, you're in this House long enough to know, to abide. It's a matter for the Minister to answer, not you. You can get one more question.
Yes. What has he to say, and the Minister say, about Professor Chris Fitzpatrick's very profound statements about the threat, the serious threat to babies that will be born needs to be for intervention, immediate intervention. What do we say to that? And as I said, your PQ today tells me that we won't have a co-location of maternity hospital, and you promise that all the time. So who's cutting who? That's a question as well.
Just to remind the House, and I'll remind the Minister as well, that these are statements on the new Children's Hospital Independent Review. And let's confine it to that.
I will indeed, and all I really have to add is I've already answered Deputy Connolly. I think Professor Chris Fitzpatrick has done incredible work for maternity services. He made a number of valid points at the PAC last week. I agree with him about the importance of moving the Coombe to the St James's site. It is in our development plan. There is funding in place to do it. But Deputy McGrath, it won't come as news to you or anyone in this House. The sequencing of that was always building the Children's Hospital first and then the maternity hospital.